Skyscraper is directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber and stars Dwayne Johnson, Neve Campbell, and Pablo Schreiber, if you remember from Orange is the New Black, and he was also in earlier years, Den of Thieves. Yeah. And this movie is about a former FBI agent played by Dwayne Johnson who, after, basically not going to spoilers, but after something that happens where he basically loses his leg, he's now using a mechanical leg for himself, and basically him and his...
10 years later.
It's 10 years later after this incident happens, and it's him and his wife, played by Neve Campbell, and they have them and their kids end up going to stay at this skyscraper. Well, they're currently staying at this skyscraper.
He apparently is like into the security business, and he's pretty much asked to come to China to look over the system he helped build and help them pass inspections so they can start opening for the public. And it's a one of the biggest buildings in the world. It's like freaking
it's like
300 stories. It's like the biggest building in the world or some shit like that.
And basically it's run by this very wealthy
Chinese dude.
Yeah, and
you remember him? He
was from Dark Knight, and he's basically playing the same character here.
Where he's rich, got a skyscraper he lives in. Yeah. It's all high tech and stuff. Yeah. So.
But anyway, there's basically, not to go into detail, but if you've seen the trailer, there's basically an incident goes down where these terrorists basically break into the skyscraper and take Neve Campbell and the kids hostage and stuff, and also,
they started on fire.
And they start on fire, and it basically becomes a mixture of Die Hard and the Towering Inferno from the 70s.
Yeah.
Now here's some backstory. Now, I've come to enjoy a lot of Dwayne Johnson's films.
Yeah,
he's had some hit and misses with some of his movies, but for the most part, I'm always on board to see a lot of his movies.
I enjoy him, and I think he's a good actor, and I have a blast for the most part. And he has hit and miss films. I think that, in my opinion, I have a feeling that they are using him a little too much, and there's become the stereotype where people are saying on the internet, oh, they're probably going to make The Exorcist with The Rock or so-and-so with The Rock, and I can get why people complain, and that's probably one of the things that kind of kills it for me a little bit with The Rock playing, is he plays in every fucking movie. He's playing in everything today.
It's a lot of blockbusters that come out, it's always going to be Johnson. And he has enough like charisma and screen presence to hold these movies together for the most part. It's just that I can see why he's overdone.
He's overdone, and I feel like he plays pretty much the same guy all the time.
Yeah.
And hell, a lot of movies you can name, it looks like he wears the same outfit.
Yeah, at least not this one, but the last couple he did. Yeah. Now, we haven't seen
the
Rampage.
Jumanji, you have the Rampage, and the one with Sean William Scott.
The Rundown?
The Rundown. You can actually say he wears the same uniform. If it's a jungle appearance, he always looks like a whole Uncharted look to him. So.
But also, it's
funny because in next year he has a jungle movie coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the name of it is. It's a Walt Disney movie, though.
Yeah. But anyway, also, it's one of the things that really drew me to was the fact that I like these kind of like action, like disaster type movies where they're kind of, because from the trailers, it kind of reminds me of what you told me about with that Towering Inferno film.
Yeah.
Which I never saw, but I heard
liked the poster. Good. The poster looked interesting where, it's a skyscraper, so I get into those films where somebody is stuck like thousands and thousands of feet in the air, and they have, trying to find a way. And I mean, I'm not a big heights fan, and that's one thing that drew me to this, because I want to feel nerve wrecked, and I'm going to tell you that in a second in my pros, but that's what kind of drew me to this film, and
also,
Rock.
I was really glad to see that Neve Campbell came back into movies, because I haven't seen her since Scream 4.
Yeah, I kind of want to see her not get too stereotyped as Sidney Prescott, so I'm hoping in the future she can do even more. I do hear that she's already in talks of doing a Scream 5 already.
Oh, really?
They're talking about it already, so she actually revealed that the other day. There's talks going on about Scream 5, but that's another movie. But getting into my pros in this film, I like, there's a con I'm going to tell you about his character, but for the most part, he was great in this film. Neve Campbell was great. The kids were great. So the acting, it's a hit and miss. It just depends who you're talking about. The main A-listers, like the Asian guy that plays in it, and stuff, they're all, for the most part, the the big actors, they did their parts.
Yeah,
the A-listers, they did their part. Visually, like everything that I have a pro on, I pretty much have a con with it. It's like a mix. Like like the visuals. Like there's some pretty cool parts, and this place looks pretty.
There are
advanced.
some good set pieces in here.
Yeah.
Like from the way that they damage some of the building and some of the stuff that Johnson goes through throughout the film. I can say, like on a visual standpoint, it does look good, but it does come into a problem later, like in parts that it doesn't look so good.
Yeah.
But I will say that for parts that you can tell that it's not like overly done with CGI, it looks fine.
Yeah, like the visually of this building looks pretty cool.
And I like the stuff they use in it. Like there's this whole sequence they go through with this stuff with mirrors, and I'll say that later comes into play.
And then you saw in the trailer where the guy was able to do something. It looks like that you're like in the air and like there's no ground.
I thought see the traffic. That was great. Yeah,
there's some really cool visual stuff in this film, and I expected that. But I also expected, and I was right. And I'll say in my cons later, there's some problems with a lot of CGI in this film. Yeah. I will get into that in a second, but yeah.
Until I'll get my other pros out of the way, I'll say that the movie does give the factor of what it's like, being afraid of heights. Because for a guy who's afraid of heights, there are at least a couple of sequences in this film that gave me kind of a unurged feel. Like when Johnson's having
where you're holding on the edge, you're scratching. I was wanting to have that feeling, and there was parts I did have that feeling, and I was like, good. That's what I wanted. When I watch movies with heights, I want that feeling.
Yeah, they do really give that in a couple of parts. And I'll admit there are some funny moments here and there that the film kind of, because the movie itself takes itself serious, but there are some moments that kind of give you like a relief of comedy that I thought cracked me up, especially some of the couple one-liners Johnson had.
Yeah.
And plus, I thought him and Nev Campbell had good chemistry together.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there ain't much they work with because there ain't much of them having time to really,
Yeah, and there's also, not to go into too much detail, but this movie does have an interesting action climax that I thought was used creatively that we haven't seen before. That I myself haven't seen before.
It was a creative climax. At the same time, it was also typical what happens in that climax, but. The way that they set up that whole thing where he's like behind.
We'll not go into detail.
Now I'm going to go in detail. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but yeah, that was pretty clever.
Yeah, but this is pretty much now where we get to our cons.
And like I said, earlier, we there's some cons, but overall, this film. It's very mixy.
Yeah. So to start out,
let's really go. Let's get into our cons. There's a lot more probably cons we have.
There's basically the plot point that sets up at the beginning with Johnson and Nev, where he's a guy who ends up not wanting to use guns anymore because there was an incident that happened 10 years prior, which left him disabled. Yeah. Well, I have a problem with this. There's kind of a problem I have with this at the beginning because. This is a guy who is actually damaged from his leg. Yeah. However, like I said, we're not going to go into detail, but the incident that led up to that, it seemed like he probably should have just had more damage.
Yeah. There's a probably you've heard going around if you watch other reviews. There's a lot of breaking the laws of physics. They do not follow. Logically, it's impossible on a lot of stuff from, and I'm not going to tell you a scene, but, if you got a human being holding a 5-ton bridge with the bare hands to, you got people falling off and then, finding the needle in a haystack loop and a leg gets caught so you don't fall to your death. What's the chance of shit like this?
Yeah,
and then jump in and you saw all the main posters, the main thing of this whole movie, the iconic shot, him literally leaping a damn half of football field into this building from a damn crane.
Yeah.
Just a lot of unrealistic shit, and the bad thing that would be alright if this movie was trying to have fun and not be so serious. But what killed it is this movie does take it seriously.
It does.
This movie is trying to be serious. A lot of people warn me, "Oh, it's not taking it seriously." Yeah, it is. The movie does not play any whatsoever that it's not taken seriously.
And that's the problem I had with the marketing, because the marketing also behind it was stating that they were going by a homage to some of the older stuff like Die Hard and The Tower Inferno and things like that.
Yeah.
That would be fine if the film itself didn't take itself seriously, because the way that it's going, it doesn't have that kind of satirical type of self-awareness that you would see in those type of movies.
And to be honest with you, I'm not saying this movie was extremely horrible, because it wasn't, but I think it's a slap in the face to compare it to something iconic like Die Hard.
Yeah, because
it's not like some of those other films, like where you had Kong, Skull Island, and stuff like that, trying to be really clever and fun, trying to be like Apocalypse Now type look, where they were doing that same poster homage. That's a lot different, because that movie was trying to be real fun with it.
Yeah.
This film was literally trying to take itself seriously, yet this movie is so fucking standard on every little logical detail that it's an insult to even think it can touch the hair on Die Hard.
Well, that, and also it doesn't help that a lot of plot points in this are directly from Die Hard.
Yeah.
It's basically, if you remember back in the 90s, there were, and also in 2013, we actually had movies that kind of were clones of Die Hard. It's kind of like that, but the only difference is that those other films, they were a lot more self-aware, if that makes sense, and they didn't take themselves quite as serious.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to why a lot of people said it wasn't taking itself seriously. Yeah, it was.
It felt like it.
I mean, that's what I saw. It was taking itself very seriously.
But it's also, and not just that, it's very predictable at times too, because a lot of the villains they set up, coming from a mile away, it's a lot of cliche 101.
The villain was so freaking standard that I really didn't even care about him.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
And plus also, you have characters.
Well, it's not only that. Another thing that was bothering me in this film, another con I have, was because this movie was so standard, there was parts I actually was getting bored with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going along,
three-quarters of it, it's a watchable film, but at this point now, you're just done seeing it all, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, this movie is extremely predictable from the beginning to the end. I will tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help that there's, going back to the CGI. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was wanting to say this. Now, before I saw this film, if I had any predictability, what I predict would be wrong with this film, I said I guarantee it's going to be a CGI slugfest. Me and my old lady, we watched the trailers and we thought it looked extremely fake looking, and that was my problem. And sure enough, like I said, it's got its visual good points. Then there's a lot of really CGI. I will bet $100 you watch this film 10 years from now, it's gonna look like a fucking cartoon.
Yeah,
it's gonna look
bad. There are a lot of points in this film where the CGI, you can tell, is on the fire for CGI is legitimately fake.
I have a problem where I feel like 70% of this film, if you really just stare at it and study it, I feel like in a way it could be kind of a lazy movie, because there's a lot you could just tell they were surrounded by green screen.
Yeah, basically.
That's like, golly, that all you had to do is remember your fucking lines in this.
I mean, other than like some of the other few parts that you can tell they rendered pretty good, a lot of the fire does not work. It doesn't.
All right, now here's where before I forget, I do want to mention this about Rock. Like I said, he's The Rock. I like him. He plays in a bunch of stuff that's gonna be a hit and miss, and he plays in too much shit. Where I kind of feel like he's overused too much in movies today. My issue with this film, it's not The Rock's fault, I don't think necessarily, but I think it's Hollywood itself. This movie makes The Rock feel like he's too full of himself in this film.
It's too much like
everybody's watching like. Yeah. Whenever he does something cool and he's all like, he feels like, it makes him feel like he's full of himself.
Yeah, it is.
It's just like,
it's
one of those movies where as the shit goes down, you got the world watching on big screen. You got the wife like, oh my God, my husband's doing it all. Just like, it's a really Hollywoodish.
Yeah, everything happens so conveniently and so like illogical, because basically The Rock's character doesn't show like really any vulnerability. That's to me does not work for a film like
even
this because
the end, other than it looks like they threw ashes on him, and that was fucking
because
it just bothered me.
Yeah, you need like I'm not saying The Rock's miscast, but the script should have went more with a self-parody type of like film, like that's being like those other type of Die Hard knockoffs where they're having fun, throwing one-liners, and you know it's trying to go with that like kind of last action hero.
I feel like The Rock. The problem with that, like you know, those fun films like Last Action Hero and all them, who had fun and they had a charisma, they just had like a blast. The Rock, I feel like when he was in this, it was too blockbustery. The director was wanting somebody big like The Rock to make his money, and I do feel like what hurts The Rock a little bit in this, me enjoying him in this film, even though I still did, what kind of makes me think he's kind of just average, he's just The Rock in this film, was the fact that we see The Rock in too much shit. Yeah. And I think that kind of kills it. And there's people out there that seriously want to fucking have The Rock in every film made. And that really, I don't even my favorite actors in the world, I don't want that because I would get burned out on them. Yeah. I gotta see change and different, you know. It's kind of hard to see as somebody who played 6 films last year. Yeah. 5, 6 films, I mean, and in the year 5, 4, and then this, I mean, he's done a lot. His filmography probably from 2010 especially to now is like that long. And I get that. Oh, well, Eddie Arnold and all them did that back in the day, but those films had a lot going. They had originality, they had fun, for the most part, in a lot of those actors. I feel like what's hurting The Rock was, in this film and all that stuff, is this movie's too Hollywood. Yeah, now, I've seen The Rock, we're not trying to be all over the place, but like, if The Rock can probably do more stuff like, say, Drive, kind of branch out a little more. And something more of a darker, where it's not him holding... bridges now this one I give him credit because he's at least a lot more layered, because he does have a more like serious presence in this compared to his other films. Now his character on his character, like the last 10 minutes I got into him more. I really started, like, he showed like it was a big change. It was finally like, all right, we're not doing a Hollywood thing where, you know, you had the where the dread part and stuff, you think something sad's gonna happen, all that shows, like, you know, what I want to see more of him do. That's what I'm saying. But for the most part, he's too Hollywoodish in that film. Yeah. And it's not really his fault, too. It's the way this director went for a blockbuster. Yeah. Now, would I necessarily call this film a fun popcorn film, like a lot of people have told me before I went and seen this film? No, I don't think it was a fun popcorn film, in my opinion. But I will stay... I will watch as a rental, or like I said, I watched it tonight. Be honest with you, I probably could live with not seeing it again. Yeah, because it really did not stand out. A lot of people were telling me it's this popcorn fun, man. It is so fun. No, it really wasn't, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, just too much of the cliches just killed it for me. Hey, that's understand. That's how I kind of feel too. Yeah. But overall, any other? No, that's really about like you had some really just cheap lines from a lot of the Asian. Some of the I will say thank you for actually using authentic Asian people instead of like Red Sparrow, which fucking English speaking. I'm glad they did that. Yeah, I'm glad. But there were some lines coming out of some of them just too like, it's too cheap. But overall, I'll say that while the film does have quite a lot of flaws, I did feel like it was at least a doable, like, well, at least movie to watch at least one time. Found the film okay. Yeah. It's just really just okay. Okay there. It's borderline not great, not good, but it's not bad. It's just like one of those films that is so extremely fucking standard, you can live with probably not seeing it again. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm going to give the film a very, very low average Joe on the Film Phreeks meter. I'm going to give it a very, very, very low on average Joe Film Phreeks meter, and I think I'm actually being really nice when I give them that. I almost wanted to give a extremely high D on this grade, but I found the film, I thought it was more of a standard film than it is a disaster. I got you. But yeah, it's a average Joe for me. Fair enough. And for those of you who have also seen Skyscraper, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to check out some of our other reviews on our channel. And also check out more of our stuff at our website at filmphreeks.com. And we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later. Later.